All right, folks, so we're here at the residence of the Cayman Islands' latest governor, Ms. Jane Owen. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much, Sandy, for coming over today. It's very nice to meet you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, all of our listeners on Cayman Marl Road will have an opportunity to view this interview. Now, you know, we like to get to know people at perhaps a more personable level. So tell us a little bit about yourself. We've heard that you have a daughter. Tell us who is Miss Jane Owen, really?
Yeah, so I was born and grew up in a part of the UK called a town called Bilston, which is just north of Birmingham. So it's in the kind of industrial area of the Midlands, if you like. I don't know how many Caymanians who live in the UK know that area, but it's certainly the part of the UK that UB40 come from. So
Right.
if anyone was at Capella on Sunday or Saturday night, they would they would have heard UB40. I grew up with my parents who owned the local toy shop, so you can imagine what an experience that was actually. And so I spent quite a lot of time working in the shop and displaying things. I used to love displaying the teddy bears and things like that. And then went to kind of school and university and have always worked in the Foreign Office, the FCDO, back in the UK. I've spent a lot of my career working overseas in several different countries, Vietnam, Japan, India, Switzerland and Norway, and done quite a lot of traveling. I always say one of my favorite hobbies actually is traveling and discovering new places. So I feel so fortunate to be able now to come to Cayman, see all three of your beautiful islands and really get to know the people and the places much better.
Yeah, well, that's very, very interesting. So what made you decide, what did you study in university?
I studied languages actually, so I studied French, German and Russian, which I started studying at university. So I guess that was what made me think that I was kind of interested in other cultures, because language goes well beyond just the spoken word, doesn't it? So I really wanted also to be able to live overseas, not just visit on business or whatever. And so I feel very privileged actually to have lived in many fascinating countries around the world.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, is this your first Caribbean island that you've lived on?
Yes, absolutely it is. Yes, so this is a first for me and therefore very exciting.
Yeah, well, you'll get used to the heat in short order, I'm sure.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about how you found your stay here. I think it's been a few weeks now. How has it been going?
Well, it's really halfway through week 2, so I think if we counted the days, it would be day 11 or something like that.
Yes.
I found I've had such a warm welcome here on Grand Cayman, but also on the sister islands that I visited last weekend with Deputy Premier Miss Julie, but also Honourable Premier was there too, and Minister J.E. Banks. So we were all there together on Little Cayman, and then we went to Cayman Brac as well. It's been a very, very warm welcome. So I really want to say to all of your listeners, thank you all very much, because I haven't just been interacting with government and the civil service and Parliament, but many people who are doing different things, charity work, people I've met at different events, and everybody has been so welcoming, and it's helped me to learn a little bit more about life and priorities here, and that's one of the things I really want to do, is to listen and learn.
Right, absolutely. Now, we do understand that you have a daughter. Is she your only child?
No, I've got, so Phoebe actually came to sort of help me settle in a bit here. She finished university last year, but she's 23. And then I have a son, James, who's 21, who is just finishing his degree in Norwich at the University of East Anglia this summer. But he's also hoping to come out in June, probably, for the summer holidays.
Okay, beautiful. So she'll stay on with you for a little bit just to get you settled in.
Yes, exactly. I think both Phoebe and James will then go back to the UK and try, like many other young people, I know it's a real challenge, try to find some work in London. So that's the next challenge ahead.
Absolutely. Now, of course, you are very unique in that you are a female governor, and we've not had very many of those. You're just the second one in the history of the Cayman Islands. Does that, on the show this morning, we were talking, we had two, guest speakers. One recently was the sort of the lead speaker about women in energy. And then we had the Caribbean economist, Miss Marl, who's very well known in the region, right? And people know that in my program, I really think that we try to empower women as much as possible. And we love to see women in position of power. So we love that you are a woman. Can you tell us from your perspective in your lengthy career in the Foreign Office, kind of what that has been like, and challenges and what amazing rewards have come with it as well?
Yes, I think it has been overall very important for women to have role models to follow, and I think I've always found that very useful in my career. So I feel that one of my kind of responsibilities, if you like, as a woman in a relatively senior position, is to kind of encourage and show those who are coming up through the ranks that it is possible. I've always felt it's very nice in any workplace to have a real balance of women and men, and to be comfortable and proud of what you bring as a woman, which is sometimes, not always, but sometimes a little bit different from what our male colleagues always bring. And it's quite nice to have that balance. So just being aware of that and being comfortable with it is, I think, very important. And I'd like to maybe, try and do some work while I'm here in Cayman to see what I can do to encourage young women coming up through the civil service, but also in other walks of life, to really realize their potential.
Yes, absolutely. That's amazing. So, the relationship between the Cayman Islands and the United Kingdom has been, historically a very, very strong one.
Yes.
There are people, you can see at times, like the coronation is coming up this weekend. We had, the late Her Majesty the Queen passed away. The people just showed such an amazing outpouring of emotion for events like this. They're very, very attached to the monarch, and it's a very, very important relationship. How do you see this position as governor as key and pivotal to continuing to nourish that relationship as times change as well?
Yes, exactly. I think as times change, you want to keep the relationship strong, but that means you have to sort of continue to transform and build on all of the challenges that are constantly coming at all of us around the world. So I do regard that as a really important part of my role, to be working closely with the Honourable Premier and his government here, but also with all parts of Caymanian business and society to do what I can, and also to be able to dig deep, if you like, into the system back in the UK to make sure that we have the right communication, the right understanding, the right mutual support that can help that relationship to grow, because it is unique and important and very special.
A lot of people don't often know what the governor does other than show up to ribbon cutting events and hosting, fancy parties. Can you give our listeners a little bit more of an insight into what an average week, I'm sure you're still figuring this out perhaps yourself, but what an average week in the life of the governor of the Cayman Islands looks like?
Well, I think the first thing about being the governor that I've learned very quickly over the last few days is that you have to be flexible, and probably no 2 weeks are the same. But certainly one of the very important duties I have is to chair cabinet, and that happens usually on a Tuesday morning. So I was privileged to be chairing cabinet and meeting Honourable Premier and his whole group of cabinet ministers yesterday morning. Then obviously the governor has responsibilities for certain areas of life here, including defence, external affairs. And one of the most important of those is internal security, and also good governance. And so always working with the system, but to figure out what we can do to make sure that we are delivering the best in terms of safety and security, hurricane preparation, etc., is really, really important. But the other thing I guess I do is go out, and there are parties, but it's all about meeting people, talking to people, really understanding what people are concerned about, what they need, and how we can help deliver that.
Yes. Well, I'm sure you're early yet in your tenure, but you'll meet some amazing people in the community, lots of seniors who appreciate all of the birthday greetings that the governor's office really participates in. Now, your predecessor really set the bar high when it comes to social media. I must say that he always had his phone camera in hand, and his team ensured that he had a very strong presence on social media to keep the lines of communication open on a platform that a lot of people use. I must say that thus far I see that you're continuing in that tradition. Is that something that's a bit new for you? Are you comfortable with it, or how do you feel about having your life on Facebook to a certain extent?
Well, I am fairly familiar with it, though I have to say Instagram is new to me.
Yes.
And so we are really trying to continue with Instagram here in the governor's office. So, that's a new one. But I do enjoy doing social media. I have great support from my team. And also, it's not just social media, but also talking to people like you, and having interaction with the media, with listeners through videos like this, through radio. I think it's very important because one of the aspects of my role that I love is just communicating both here, but also communicating about the importance and the relevance of Cayman back in the UK. And that's certainly one of the things I'll be doing next week. So I have the great privilege of going with Honourable Premier to the coronation. It's a historic event. I think a very important part of how our relationship continues to evolve. But we do have the Joint Ministerial Council as well, which is where we will be talking with other overseas territories, premiers and governors about the issues of the day. And then I hope to be able to communicate some of that when we get back here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I know you have some busy days ahead with the traveling. Tell us a little bit about what you think are some of the challenges that you're going to be facing in your tenure.
Well, I think I'm still at the process of listening and learning, really. But if I were to think about the sort of emerging priorities that are really coming to the fore, obviously security is one, and I mentioned that before. So it's about hurricane preparedness, but it's also about looking at how we are tackling issues like crime and drugs and child safeguarding, etc. I want to be working to support the very strong Caymanian economy and financial sector. There's several developments going on there, so that's important. Then we've got the environment, protecting the beautiful environment on these islands, and I know we've worked very closely with your government to provide communication, ideas, support in both directions, really, and we will continue to do that as best we can. And then finally, I guess it's getting out, meeting all parts of society. I've seen already quite a lot of the charity work that goes on here. It's incredibly impressive. And that gets us then into areas like health and education and mental health. And those are parts of society that I'd also like to learn more about.
Well, amazing. Well, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We know that you're extremely busy, and of course you're going to be making some final preparations ahead of your trip to the UK. So safe travels, and thank you so much for just taking a few minutes out of your schedule to sit down and talk with us.
Thank you very much, and I hope that lots of your listeners will come along to our King's birthday party, which we'll be holding on Monday the 19th of June, and that will be an opportunity to celebrate again the coronation and for everyone to come and enjoy this beautiful house. So I look forward to having an open house then.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much.